Hello and welcome. Today I'm in the Tier 8 German aircraft carrier, the Graf Zeppelin. Now this is one of the test versions that is not available anymore. And I wanted to make this video to showcase why I think it is a good idea that Wargaming decided not to go with this loadout for the Graf Zeppelin. This is just basically an example. This is the version that is 230 with deep water torpedoes. Now at the time I didn't actually know that this carrier had deep water torpedoes. I just played her like I would any other carrier, and I don't think it actually made any difference in this game. Although I did try to drop on a destroyer, but I think I messed up the drop anyway. So basically, if you're not gonna watch the entire video, the reasoning is that this loadout does too much alpha damage, and the vast majority of players, in my opinion, are not equipped to deal with this kind of a thing. That is, they don't play the game in a way where they take this into account because, well, the vast majority of carrier players they face will not be able to utilize it in nearly as deadly of a fashion. So I started out doing the thing that you would normally do, that is, I went to look for a battleship because they are the easiest thing to drop, and because I hadn't played the ship in a while, I wasn't quite sure how good I would be with this drop pattern. And I found a Friedrich der Grosse that is ramming a Yamato apparently, which means that they have basically no chance of doing any real evasive maneuvers, even though they are a tier 10 and tier 9 battleship together next to a cruiser, but the cruiser is AFK, so that doesn't really help them. And I managed to get my drop off. And look at how much health the Friedrich loses. The Friedrich is almost dead. She went down to 5,000 health. And my drop wasn't even that good. That is, I missed one torpedo launcher full of torps. Plus, you know, some torpedo bombers were shot down by the battleships. Although, considering how few of them were shot down, I don't think either of them have any anti-air upgrades, which means that, you know, they are even less equipped to deal with this kind of a thing. And I mean, at 2 minutes 30 seconds into the game, I was at 83,000 damage done. As a tier 8 carrier in a tier 10 battle. And I struck a tier 9 plus tier 10 ship together. Now, I know that the fighters are weaker. I am against the Shokaku, by the way. My fighters are weaker, but you know, just right now I used my friendly ships for anti-air. And so we took out the fighters quite easily. Now, I'm not playing the best at all because I haven't played the game at this point in a while, especially carriers, so I make some dumb mistakes, like I lost the fighter squadron to basically a Neptune sitting in a cap zone. And you know, most carrier players, I would say, probably make these kinds of mistakes quite often. Maybe not all the time, but often enough. And you know, they do similar things with their strike planes, and I think that's why most players, when playing the game, don't really view carriers as a big threat, because, you know, in their past, they haven't really seen them be super effective, so, you know, it's not that big of a deal. And then that one time they'll run into some really good carrier player, maybe not me, but like somebody else that's actually good, and they'll get completely demolished because they don't take any precautions against, you know, playing those carriers. Now, the other thing is that of course you can't always rely on precautions. For instance, that Yamato and Friedrich, yeah, they could have reacted better, they could not have been ramming each other, etc. That would have helped. However, because of the fact that their Hipper was AFK, I don't think there was much they themselves could have done to avoid it, because this map doesn't exactly lend itself to trying to defend yourself against carriers. You see, there aren't enough islands to stick near, etc, etc. Now, of course, the Shokaku could have done something, but yeah, as you saw, the Shokaku was a bit late, and that meant I could do a really nice drop on them. However, notice though that it's 5 minutes into the game, and I still haven't done my second strike yet. So, you know, even though I got my first strike done so quickly, the second one still takes quite a while to actually happen. Now this is the point where the fact that I have deep water torpedoes actually comes in, because my plan is to drop on this Udalai, because again, I didn't know that she had deep water torpedoes. But I did say that I don't think it made any difference with the drop in the game before, and the reason why I say this is because I absolutely messed this drop up, and I don't think any of the torps are in time. Although there is a chance one squadron of torps could have you know, worked in time. However, I wasn't looking at the location of the torpedo bombers at the time, so I don't quite know. But yeah, basically, as you can see, I just completely messed it up. And this is one of the things that I mentioned people, that no, hitting a destroyer that's trying to evade you is not actually that easy. And as you saw, the torpedo bomber... Oh, no, yeah, I guess the deep water torpedoes did matter, because the torps just passed below the Udalai. At the time that I was playing, and when I rewatched this match, I thought that it was just desync, but I guess deep water torpedoes could explain it. I did think it was weird that the icon looked slightly different, but I guess now I know. And, you know, the torp might have hit, I don't know, hard to say. Oh well, whatever it is. I mean, that's another thing that I think was an issue, right? It's not really obvious that these are deep water torpedoes unless you know exactly what deep water torpedoes are before. Which I didn't, which meant that, yeah, this was a bit of a cock-up. It is what it is, though. I mean, I've already hit a battleship pretty hard. Also, I think somebody doesn't like me in chat very much. It's the Yugumo, I think. I don't know why, though. I mean, I've already done something like the average damage output of a carrier at tier 8 or something like that in that one drop at the start. Plus, you know, again, it's a tier 10 game, so you can't really expect the carrier to do that much. Although, yeah, I guess that's another reason why this seems rather unreasonable, is that I am a tier 8 carrier after all, and this is a tier 10 game. Now, so the reason why basically the Alpha Strike is too strong is that you have 15 torpedo bombers, and those torpedoes deal more damage than other torpedo bombers. So imagine you're looking at the Kaga and you go like, oh man, this thing is overpowered. Look at how much Alpha Strike these torpedoes deal. And then you look at the Graf Zeppelin, and not only do you not have a Saipan equivalent at tier 8, which means that you're not going to get those maybe not auto losses, but these matches where you get completely screwed. On top of that, your torpedoes deal more damage, and you have more of them. You see, the Kaga has the same amount of torpedo bombers as the Hakuryu does, right? So, you know, it's not unprecedented, but the Graf Zeppelin has more. And, yeah, I think that's a pretty big deal. Sure, I don't think you're gonna hit all of your torps almost ever. Maybe just not most of the time on a battleship. However, I mean, even if you miss one of the torps, the other 4 are gonna be easy to hit, and that means you still hit 12 of the torpedoes. So yeah, it's a big deal. So the next target I'm gonna hit is either the Tirpitz or the Yamato, depending on how they move. I guess it'll be the Tirpitz, because the Tirpitz is further ahead and she already committed to a turn. Now, I do think what the Tirpitz did initially was a good idea, that is, she turned closer to the island. However, I think the Tirpitz's reaction to start turning the other way or slowing down was a bit too slow. You know, he kept turning, as you can see. Yeah, it did mean that my torps... that I hit less of my torpedoes. However, you know, it didn't save the ship. The Tirpitz should have started turning the other way once I started flying the planes to her other side. And I think that was the Tirpitz's mistake. But I do like the fact that she used the island. And if you noticed where the Yamato went, that's actually kind of the type of deal you would have wanted to do. Because if you're that close to the island, the only thing I can do as a carrier is to fly to the other side, which, you know, means I'm sitting in his anti-air the entire time, and then, you know, I still have to position correctly and drop. And I think, you know, that is something that can help you quite significantly. However, looking at the game though, it's not going nearly as well as it should be, considering how much I've done so far. Well, okay, I've dropped on 2 ships, but still, you know, I did a massive amount of damage and that should have started snowballing early on, at least on the Friedrich. But we are behind. We have lost 5 ships, sorry, 6 ships, they have lost 4. However, we hold all 3 cap zones, so I guess we're actually doing quite okay. That's why I also am moving away with my ship, because I definitely don't want to be caught out. Because that could be a really bad situation. Also, I'm out of actually fighters. Now, I haven't been keeping much track of what the Shokaku has left though, so... You know, the Shokaku might or might not have an advantage. But I don't think it matters, because as you've noticed already, the Shokaku has not really been very active in defending his teammates. So I don't think it makes that big of a difference now. Although it can, but I mean, all I need to really do is tie the fighters up and just drop. Because these drops are just that devastating. My next target is gonna be the Yamato. Especially since the Tirpitz likely is next to a Hindenburg, plus the Shokaku is likely in that direction too. And it seems that this Hindenburg and Yamato might not be sticking as closely together. Because, well, the Hindenburg is gonna hide below the water line soon. Although it would help if somebody actually shot the Hindenburg. Okay, there it is. And now there is a defenseless Yamato. Okay, she's not quite defenseless. However, she is engaged with other ships right now, which means that she prioritizes that. And, well, now that I'm coming in, the Yamato can't really do enough evasive maneuvers to try to avoid this, at least not in time. And so, this means that this Yamato is probably gone. And rip in peace. So, yeah. You could ask, hey, what could the Yamato have done? Well, the Yamato could have realized that there is a very high alpha strike carrier in the game and tried to stay closer to islands. Or, you know, try to stick closer with the other teammates. Those kinds of things could have all been helpful. And these aren't really things you could decide upon when you notice that the carrier is targeting you. These are things that you have to decide upon pretty much at the start of the game. And you have to take this into account with pretty much every single decision you make. You see, the Yamato and the Hindenburg were sailing kinda open in the water. Maybe if they had all gone to the sea cap, I could not have dropped them. So these are the kinds of things you need to think about when you are playing against carriers, especially when they have high alpha strike or, you know, are likely to cause damage over time. But these are not things most players think about, which means that this kind of alpha strike damage will be a problem for them. In the past I thought that this wouldn't ever be a big deal, because I thought that people would just learn to play and, you know, deal with it. But it has been pretty obvious over time that this is not the case. The other thing, of course, is as well that if you are an experienced player, then you expect to be able to mostly avoid damage from carriers, or at least not get hurt significantly by them. Because again, most carrier players probably aren't that great either. But if you have this much alpha strike, even if you take like 1 torpedo launcher, or maybe 2, you still take a significant amount of damage, so even for experienced players this thing can be quite a problem. However, I think that that is something experienced players can deal with. It's just that, you know, when you're dealing with random battles in matchmaking that is not skill-based, well, unfortunately, I think for the health of the game, it's better if things like this just don't exist. And goodbye, Oh, no, the game ended. Never mind. Oh well, I could have done like 5,000 to 6,000 more damage. It is what it is. But as you saw, the amount of damage I just did was just devastating, especially considering the fact that I wasted an entire drop on a ship that I literally could not have been able to damage. Right, I mean, yet I still did 205,000 damage, even though it took such a large amount of time to actually do the drops. And I completely wrecked the Shokaku's XP, of course. A 15-minute game. I think I did, what, 3 or 4 drops plus one, that was bungled up, so, carry doesn't attack that many times in a match. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, Roaming Raven, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.